Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event.
Let's go.
Round one, fight.
Thank you for tuning in to the Crypto Street Podcast. Here are your hosts, Killer Whale, Prince, and Crypto Dale.
And remember to tip your waitress.
Hola, me llamo es Crypto Dale. You are tuning into my Spanish is horrible.
Yeah.
So you're tuning into Crypto Street Podcast. Thank you. What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. My name is Me llamo es Crypto Dale. Mi amigo Killer. Hola.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Bien. Así. ¿Y tú?
Bien. I spent most of my day arguing with people on Reddit and reading Reddit about this Conor McGregor fallout. It's Thursday. We're recording this. Basically sabotaging the upcoming UFC card. So I'm a tad depressed.
I feel like last time we recorded, Prince had his outrage on the troll box in Bitmex. I feel like it's my time to have an outrage on something, but I just don't know what yet.
You find something to get real angry about. Just internalize, take it personally. Just find something. Find some issue.
I was a little pissy this afternoon. I don't know if my man period was coming or what, but I'm good to go now. But we'll see. Hey, Prince.
What's up, man?
How's it going, Big Daddy?
Not bad. Weather's not bad. Up in Canada land, it's not bad, but, it's going to get bad again. So
let's give the...
Sounds bad.
It's not bad right now, but it's going to get
bad.
bad again. So, just living the dream another day, surviving.
Let's give the audience listening an update on your progress with getting Dale unbanned from Canada.
It's not happening. They
Yes,
don't want
it is. I don't understand. It was a one-time deal.
It's not happening.
And now I'm banned for life.
You're not getting in.
They have pictures of Dale at the border, actually. It says, not welcome. Only
just
him.
lurking at the
I have
border.
a feeling when we go to Crypto CoinCon, they're going to, when you try to get back in, they're going to say, hold the picture up. Have you been hanging out with this guy?
Yeah.
Oh, that reminds me, before we forget, everybody, we have some Crypto Street merchandise on the way. Very exclusive, some very cool stuff. So be sure to keep an eye out for that. Obviously, we'll be promoting it on Twitter and everything. So
yeah, it's today's Thursday, the 5th. This isn't going to release until next week sometime. So hopefully by then we're pretty close to having the store open. It'll be its own separate website. You can go there. We're going to start with offering a limited edition T-shirt. I'm sure if you follow us on Twitter, you're going to see some stuff. So check it out. So Killer and I, it's one of them shows where we are not in the majority tonight because we have got a fellow Canadian and the dopest DJ in the crypto space, DJ Thistle. What's going on? Thanks for joining.
You betcha. Thanks for having me very much.
Yeah, no problem. We're pumped. We're just pumped. So let's just talk about how you got into crypto. Maybe give a high level overview on what spurred you into the space and whatnot.
Sure. So my background came more from being interested in commodities. So entered in the silver space in the dip in 2009 and started learning to chart and all that kind of stuff through that. And crypto was growing in 2013, and some friends of mine were like, "Hey, you got to check this out." And I was like, "Hey, this is kind of neat. Maybe I should buy some just because." But it was really difficult to buy. Mm-hmm. So the ability to buy Bitcoin, I remember it was $55, and then it was like $150, and then it was like $200, and I was like, son of a b, this is disappointing. I wish I would have bought some. And in my head, it's going up so exponentially quickly that I'll just wait for a dip or wait for the space to mature a little more, and then I'll find a way to buy some. Lo and behold, the son of a bitch goes to $1,000 and over, and I'm kicking myself. And I will admit that that this becomes where my mistakes of the crypto started. Was I decided to buy when it was way too high, and I think even people like Loops and that have been around forever and that have done really well trading. But yeah, we still bought the FOMO like the people in the last the end of 2017 did, unfortunately. And it happens, whatever. So I got into crypto that way through actual friends that I could touch. Other than that, I knew nothing about it. And then I learned a bit more about the tech side and was like, this is kind of neat. This is going to be worth sticking around. And that led to altcoins. So what little Bitcoin that I did buy back then, I put it on Cryptsy and I started trading. And those same, real friends started telling me about Doge, of course. And oh yeah, hey man, I'm in this, what the hell were they called back then? The chat. What did we?
Oh, like IRC.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man, I'm in these IRC chats. There's this guy called Wulong. Oh man, they're gonna pump, blah 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 blah. Man, and they got me. That's how they got me. And so I had that Bitcoin on Cryptsy. I bought some Doge, and that of course did well. And I'm looking around at other things and making some good trades, bad trades, in between trades, whatever, doesn't really matter. Just having fun. Doge did good, and then Wulong, he did. What did he do after that? Uno, and I think Dev, and like maybe WorldCoin or something like that. So like the big dumb idiot that I was coming into the space, from like at that point in time, I was coming out of like owning my record shop and all that kind of stuff, and I was really like heavily involved in politics here, like. I had, because of music and whatnot, I had a lot of impact within the community. And I just looked at the world, like the thing that I liked about crypto was this newness to it, this new opportunity that could provide. So, that was what sort of fundamentally got me the most interested. And that's also why I was in politics, because I felt like, well, you can't change the game from the outside. So you need some good people to get involved with stuff to actually make a change. And, that ended up being a waste of time, because once I made it very high up the ladder, like I was like the regional president of the party and, ran in elections and did like huge campaigning and fundraising, made it, near the top of the pyramid, and realized, okay, to go any further, it's beyond towing the rope. You have to participate in an ideological standard and principles that I wasn't willing to do. So I exited politics then as I was coming into crypto. So I had this viewpoint of, I want things to be good. I want to be able to trust people. I've had a brick and mortar business. I've been involved with, these higher level people. I think my trust in people was kind of way too naive and coming from a different space. So I entered crypto thinking that people that are giving you tips or that are giving you like views on markets are actually half decent people, right. Because I am. And most people coming in the space are. So you're not thinking that when a person is writing something on Twitter or information that you've got from a friend that you trust, that somebody has, accumulated down low, pumped it all up themselves, and now once they're talking about it, distribution is one thing. I mean, you can still have waves and exit on the way up. But back then, it was just like, they buy low, they build it up, you tell everybody, and you just elevator that thing back down, So what gains I did make in Doge and whatnot were pretty much all wiped out when Wulong just killed Uno and Dev and all that other kind of stuff. So 2013, buy the top. 2014, play alts well, get crushed because of, the trust issue. I think we roll forward now into like late spring of 2014, and I met different other people and other groups, and I just seen that a lot of people wanted to learn more, and I had a history with charting, so I've sort of like mentored people along the way. I know the term paid group gets thrown around loosely, I view a lot of that stuff as you're paying somebody for inside information, which just doesn't work in crypto, and it's also illegal in in stocks and whatnot. And then there's the people that are paid groups that are just giving signal calls and whatever. And really, if the market is generally moving in their favor, then that paid group is going to do well. But when it switches, it doesn't. And then there's other people, I think, that are truly mentoring people within the space. Some people I like, some people I don't. I don't need to say who I like and don't like, because even if I don't like them, if they're truly mentoring and giving people value, then that's good for the space. All personal stuff aside. So I know that there was quite a number of questions, whether real or trolled, in terms of the future of paid groups in crypto. And I think that also comes off of new regulations and how much you can do within the actual stock market. So my answer to that question is that the future of it is just like it is in Forex and stocks. You look at Twitter, and there's a zillion people trying to sell you Forex call signals or call groups or whatever. So it's exactly the same. If you're trying to, buy a penny stock low and dump it on people, or a crypto low and dump it on people, that's illegal. Your paid group is illegal. If you're just trying to sell people signals, well, you have your disclaimers and yada, yada, and have fun. It might work, it might not work. It's all up to the, person. If you're actually, mentoring people and trying to add value, and of course you have your disclaimer because we're more all legit now, or, regulations, then I think that there's always going to be a space for that. Basically mentors are books that can talk back to you.
Right. And a couple things I want to touch on there, Thistle, is one, first off, if you are one of those people that feel the need to dump on, these innocent people that are really truly here to learn, then go play in traffic, because you're the scummiest of scum. So moving back on, I think it's really great to hear from someone that's been in the space for so long, like yourself, hear that you at one time have FOMO'd, because I think there's this perception of, the quote unquote OGs like yourself, whether whatever. I think there's this conception that you guys have been perfect and flawless. A lot of people think that. And it's really good to hear that you guys have FOMO'd. I mean, the best way, I was thinking today when 0x was going through the roof, I kind of pulled up the Binance chart and started laughing to myself, because I thought, 8 months ago, I 100% would have bought this. I guarantee it. But because of my mistrials and miscues along the way, I just said, well, not only did I pull up my Binance and realize I had a bag that I didn't know about, but I thought I'm not going to add to it because of what I've learned in the past.
What's so tough about it too is, like, when I first started on Poloniex, you'd look at the top volume or gain charts on Poloniex, and you'd see something that was up 200% in the past 24 hours. And you say to yourself, okay, I missed the pump. But then you check back an hour later and it's up 400%. You're like, fuck, I might as well hop on. It's going to 1,000%.
That was pot coin for me.
Yeah.
I lost so much money on the pot coin pump.
And without fail,
and it went up 1,000%.
Yeah.
And I lost a ton of money on it.
But how do you think that shaped your trading? Because that's DJ, that's something that's actually fairly common with the quote unquote OGs we speak with, is like Dale was saying, they got in at the top of Bitcoin or Doge. Do you think that impacted your strategy from that point on?
I think what impacted, I'm going to say, our strategy, because in that sense, all the veterans of the space in terms of the last big cycle, if we were getting in more towards the top, you know what I mean, then our whole experience in crypto was shaped by the bear market afterwards. So, I mean, when this thing was going up, there was I did my best of the entire market from the lows in 15 to the highs in late 17, shorting the January and March hard dumps, because coming from that bear space, once you get so oversold and the spreads weren't crazy yet, trying to short when the price was up above even 14K was really difficult in my eyes, just from a psychological point of view with the numbers, because the spread and how much that's costing you in dollars is a lot. Like before, when the price was lower, even if the percentage is the same, you know, you're like, okay, well, whatever, you know, and you blow 0.1 of a Bitcoin, it's $25. Who cares, right?
Right.
But if you're blowing 0.1 of a Bitcoin, and that in CAD at the time was like,
it was a good amount.
That's $2,500 basically.
Yeah.
And that is, you know, that can be like a month's worth of pay for people in North America that are just really middle ground. So that's like, that's a huge amount of money. So, so to me, when you know, the space affected me in terms of becoming a really good bear trader. So even when the bull market came, you know, I would just crushing it on those big dips, because that's what I seen for 18 months straight.
So you have a pretty unique approach to a lot of the way you're trading your trades, and it's kind of, you know, shown through your Twitter. You kind of reference some of these unique approaches you have, and some of them, you know, the people have been commenting on your tweets, you know, talk about this, please. And one of the things is how you use astrology, or, you know, seasonal patterns, stuff like that into your trading. Why don't you talk a little bit about that? Because, you know, I don't know anybody really who uses astrology, but yet I know it's something that's been used, you know, going back through history, right? Like there's many big figures through history have used astrology quite seriously for their business endeavors. So maybe go into that a little bit, because I think most people just don't even got a clue.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm going to kind of break that up into three things. I think maybe kind of like why I think it has any importance, what I think the importance is, and then how I apply it. Why I think it has, or how it came to me, is that, you know, you see astrology or whatever in the paper growing up as a kid. So it's like, it's just there. It's just a thing. It's this word astrology. People do it. I think I kind of, through music and the type of music that I was into and whatnot, had a lot of more like, you know, hippie friends, we'll just go that way. And so people were into different types of things, which made me open to different types of things at a very young age. My wife is really into astrology and really quite good. There's different types of astrology. You call it Western astrology or Chinese, or there's just different ones. Magi astrology is the one that I adhere to. I believe that it is static. You can use a computer program for it. There is no room for interpretation. Things have meanings. Those meanings interact with each other. That's it. That's all. So my wife was into that form, and she was learning from like the Magi Society, and there's not really a lot of certified Magi astrologers in the world. And so that made me interested in terms of like how guarded they keep all their stuff. Like their website is like, to get into certain things, it's like 8 passwords deep. Like they take their privacy super, super seriously. And there's only like 3 books and an ephemeris, and that's it. So my wife bought a program. I'm going to just throw it out, maybe 2005, like a computer program for, you know, looking at love and money or best days to get married. I think it might have been the lead up to us getting married. And then I started thinking, well, I mean, can you use this for betting? And I started thinking, well, you know, people are going to have good days and bad days. And then I read some stuff on their site, and they talked about Cinderella alignments and these different trines, and how people that win World Series and Super Bowls and all that they always have the same stuff going on. So I thought, yeah, that's pretty cool. So I dove into it more and just kind of did like back testing, and found different things that I could find in terms of to bet on sports. And I did okay for a bit, you know, like I find that really team sports with low spreads like soccer or football, depending on where you're listening to this, was difficult to do with accuracy. Whereas baseball, you could just do the pitchers And what would fuck me really bad was the guy coming in to save the game and blowing it, because you don't know who's going to come in to be a relief pitcher. So it turned out that NFL football was the best. The game is very dependent on the quarterback, and the spreads of the game are big enough that you're not going to get hit as much on your ticket, whether you need to cover the spread or not. So I used astrology that way for a little bit. And then I think we moved, and it was an old crappy computer and whatever, it got put in the closet. So fast forward like almost 8 years later to crypto. And I know from that site and what they were doing that they had programs for market astrology. The market astrology ones are, quite expensive. So I just kind of took my knowledge of how astrology works and did more back testing again, and just used the certain functions within like the love and money setup on the money side to look at charts. And things that I found, without going into it too much and giving too much things away, is that I think people can learn a base for this if you only look at, I'm doing air quotes here, financial, like you want to cut out the noise. So just look at financial planets, look at what has happened over the history of time between the relationships of financial planets and Saturn, and then financial planets and Jupiter and the sun.
What makes a planet a financial planet?
Sure. So the different astrological backgrounds give different meanings to different planets or asteroids and things like that. Most of them are fairly congruent, but there is variances over the different ideologies. So, something like, in Western astrology, people equate Mars to, war and violence, and Venus to love, right? So different planets sort of rule over different things. Mercury is important for retrograde and Bitcoin because Mercury rules over communication and technology, and Bitcoin is very much a communicative form in terms of its transactions, and the blockchain itself is super technical. So there is things to be said about Mercury retrograde and Bitcoin, ironically enough. And so planets that you might want to look at or might not want to look at is things like the moon, because it moves. Like, there is specific lunar trading and lunar trading models in terms of how things are going to react in the market over the course of a month. When things were low and sideways in 2015, Flipper talked about up moon and down moon a lot, because every 2 weeks it just flipped. And you can go and look about silver. The silver market and lunar trading is proof that it happens. We don't even need to talk about that. So lunar trading happens. In terms of longer term cycles, I don't look at the moon because the moon moves quickly. It's for short term. So I want to look at, like maybe Venus has impact, but I'm much more interested in the big financial rulers like Pluto or the asteroid Sirius, because they are further out and they're going to dictate trends and patterns longer. And I would then cross those with things like Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter is the great protector, basically, even in the solar system itself. It takes in all the hits from the asteroids and shit to save the inner part of our solar system. And it's much the same way in astrology, where it's big. It makes things big, and it's good. Whereas Saturn is the destroyer. Saturn is bad. So generally speaking, when you see a time in Bitcoin, what we call Bitcoin's natal chart, it's just the Bitcoin's birthday versus the astrology of the day. And when we see times in the future where there is what we would say no Saturn clashes, so Saturn is not linking up with other planets, we know that chances are we're going to have good times leading up into the no clashes, and during the no clash, we're going to hit a blow off top of some kind. If the market is super bearish, it's still going to reflect the most positive time within the market itself. If the market is very bullish, that's going to reflect a bullish time within the market. If you see a time where Bitcoin's natal chart is just chock full of Saturn clashes, and Saturn is clashing with Jupiter and the sun and Pluto, that's all bad because it's clashing with good energy. It's clashing with the business planets. So
this is fascinating. I've like just started kind of researching this stuff a lot more in like the past 2 weeks, really. So
cool.
This is
Thanks.
really cool.
So I'll kind of finish off here. So why it has meaning is that, and to people are thinking, oh, astrology, and what is it actually doing? I'm making it very clear. Planets don't do anything. Planets don't make you do anything. I believe, and I think that why this works is that this is more sort of esoterical, is that somewhere out there is where all of us, all of it, all of the energy that is out there comes from.
It's all energy.
That's is going to reflect itself in different fractals throughout the universe, whether it be emotional or physical or whatever. We see price fractals within the chart. Whereas I think why astrology works is that planets are a reflection of the energy coming from out there. And it's always in a cyclical fashion, right? So astrologers back in Babylonian times started tracking things and they started knowing patterns. So through the course of keeping data and trial and error, we've kind of seen what different patterns were doing. And thus, quote unquote, astrology works because it's being a predictive model in terms of when the energy out there is changing and when it's going to change. So, astrology has merit because if you believe in just pure energy, then it's telling you what's happening ahead of time. It's not that Saturn is making me do something. No, that's totally rubbish. And I agree with you all there. That is totally, that's rubbish. So,
When you say planets are clashing, because I know nothing about astrology, basically. Like I know, my astrological sign and all that kind of stuff, but what does it mean when planets are clashing?
So
that could be a deep topic right there.
Yeah, it can be a deep topic. I think the easiest way to say it in sort of the least amount of words is to say that formations occur. So if something is like exactly square in the sky, or if 4 planets are making like when I say square, I mean like they might be at a right angle to each other. Or if there's multiple planets involved, they could be actually making a square in the sky or a triangle, and it's the angles of the triangle and stuff like that. So if you have the geometry in the sky lining up, perfectly between Saturn and Pluto, then that clash is not good. Whereas if you see Jupiter and the Sun and Venus all making a really nice triangle together with no Saturn around, hey, that's great for Bitcoin.
This is fascinating because, to me, it just goes to show again where we're always telling people, there's no one perfect way to make a trade. There's no one perfect way to, come to a decision. There are so many different things you can use to get to this, point where you want to make a decision. And here is one that, I guarantee you most people would never think to use astrology into their decision process on, if they want to make a trade.
That's also cultural too, right? Because if you talk to people that are from India or China, I mean, it's just second nature. When you're born,
India, it's considered a legitimate science.
Yeah, and that's again why I think that there's more and less merit in the different ideologies, because I feel Western astrology can be pretty wishy-washy, toilet paper reading, and that's why it's not respected in North America. Whereas when you come from other cultures where it becomes not interpretive and everything has a specific meaning, then there's a different viewpoint on it altogether. And I want to make clear too that I use it for like trend analysis, and it's not how I pull a trigger on a trade. Like you still need to understand probably what we'll talk about next, like volume and Wyckoff and stuff like that. That's pulling the trigger. Yep. But in terms of understanding trends, I like it.
Well, yeah, and let's branch off now. Let's go into Wyckoff, because Wyckoff is another thing that a lot of people, you know, especially when they first get into trading, it's not something they're going to be looking at to learn right away because, you know, it's straight up, it's not the most familiar technical analysis tool amongst a lot of newer folks. But once you kind of start studying it, you're like, wow, this makes a lot of sense. And you use it quite a bit. And on your Twitter profile, you have that pinned post with a lot of info about Wyckoff. So why don't you go a bit into Wyckoff and how you kind of structure yourself around
Yeah,
that?
sure. Okay. So with astrology, when we were talking, it's a lot of things that people know nothing about and it's kind of abstract. But for the people that are interested in it, they want to know some fine bits. And I think they got some fine bits in there. Whereas with Wyckoff and volume, I think generally speaking, less is more when it comes to charting. So I'm going to try and explain these parts kind of, I think maybe with the least amount so that people can then not be like, it just gets so frustrating, And so to me, Wyckoff, it's a market model. I know that there are people that have very much quantified it, and that's okay. I like to use it more as the rough market model, which is a downtrend, and then the market moves sideways across the downtrend. That sideways will make a very pronounced channel. In a perfect Wyckoff formation, you're probably going to get 2 hits to the top of that channel. And before you get the third, it's actually going to fall out of the bottom of the channel. That is what's called the spring, and the most beautiful buying opportunity and the most worthwhile buy of your time. And I'll come back to that. You have the spring, and then out of the spring, it enters back up into the channel, breaks up out of the channel. As it's breaking up out of the channel, it's going to go, if you were to look over to the left side of your chart, that breakout is probably going to stop where the last high was on your left side. It's probably going to quite violently fall, which is called the throwback. Then after the throwback, it's going to go up a little more and go sideways again, which is called reaccumulation. It's important at this point to understand if you're in reaccumulation or if it's distribution. And in that sense, you're looking at volume. And if over time, I would say look at, spot prices. We won't talk about futures with this part yet. I think that—
Hey, Thistle, I'm going to stop you real quick. If you're listening, you can go on his profile, his pinned tweet, and he's referring to the update as you go piece right now. So
yeah,
that's
okay.
Sorry, just
for sure. It gives them a reference point. So we were at breakout, throwback, comes up a little bit into reaccumulation. You're in reaccumulation when you're seeing more buys than sells, or at least not a lot of selling pressure. And then it's going to mark up. It usually marks up 3 levels. And then after that, depending on how crazy the market is, it might do a blow off top, and then repeat the cycle back down. Something I want to go back to was the portion about falling out of the channel, the spring into the channel, and the blow off. What kind of is happening there is after you've come out of the downtrend and you've gone sideways, a lot of people aren't really sure if they're looking at accumulation or distribution. And even if it is an accumulation, the market makers, the market that is being driven, no free lunches, basically, right? So they've accumulated their position and they're happy with it, and they're okay with a little drawdown or smacking it down a bit to shake people out. So as that happens in the spring, is when that market force is going to be, pulling their bids and buying a bit through the channel, because that's still accumulation to them. And then as that's happening, retail is starting to shit their pants because they sold the bottom of the channel. The price is starting to run. The books are thinner and more thin, and they have to get back into the market. So that becomes how the breakout of the channel happens. And then as the price is going up, if you're going to be making substantial midterm highs, or if the market itself is making new all-time highs. Each round that it's going up, you have to margin call the shorters, or the people that have shorted on the last levels, right? So that's where volume really comes in. So if you also if people are looking at the Twitter feed there, if you were to scroll down, I think 3 or 4 more posts, there's another one on volume, and you can see in that post when the price is rising and you have a big green volume spike, often the price falls after that. And then vice versa, when the price is falling, as the price spikes down, there's a big red volume spike, and then it goes back up. So what's happening there in terms of Wyckoff and market structure is that each markup you've had on the way up in a bull market, there's going to be people that are going to do a really good job shorting the top. And they're not going to let it go during the dip because they don't think they're in a bull market, or they think that the bull market is done. So that next time on the next round up, where you break the old high and those shorts are now like clearly underwater, they might not want to let them go until they're liquidated or called, right? So that green spike that is on the volume chart that I'm showing you is bulls driving it up, and they are driving it up until shorts get called. And when the shorts get called or have to cover, that's that excessive amount of buying is their shorts switching to longs, right? So that green spike means something. It's not just, oh, there's a green spike on the chart, it's going to go down. Oh, there's a red spike. The red spike is the same thing. It's people that have longed the dip, and as it's gone past below you, you've exited, or you didn't exit and you have to be margin called. So it's all the liquidity of everyone, getting called from that last dip that is the red volume candle. So that's why I think it's really important, simple tool for new traders to use is just volume and price action, because it's telling you what's going on.
I literally, I couldn't agree more. And it's funny because when you first start, I remember when I first started, it was how many different indicators can I get on this chart?
Right.
And then you start to get a little more mature, I think, with your trading, and you're like, okay, well, I don't really need much of these. I just need, my price bars, and I need my volume, and maybe I'll toss some RSI on there, but otherwise, everything else I need is just right in front of me on the chart. So, and I think that's, this Wyckoff, it's sometimes, people will look at it and they're like, oh, it's so confusing. But really, in its simplest form, it's just, price action analysis, right? You're just looking at how the liquidity is and how the action is going. And, it's not always perfect, with how it, I've noticed some people will try to line up, formations that they'll see on a, like, oh, this is your cheat sheet or something, right? And they're not always going to be perfect. They're not always going to follow it to a T, but the general conception, of the trend of what it's doing, it's going to be.
Yeah, and what you said there about all the indicators, the one that I use is just a simple Stotch RSI. It's not the same thing. It's not always going to be perfect, but when you trade long enough, you'll kind of see that having one momentum indicator is not bad, because
and being able to spot, sometimes it just helps seeing those divergences when they appear maybe a little bit early. So it's never a bad thing to have, but it's funny because you definitely don't need all those colorful indicators.
Like we've said before, I think, for me, a lot of early on with the over indicators is more me lacking confidence and needing every single thing that, would reassure me into a trade or out of a trade or something. But the deeper you get, the less you need those, and the more you can run with something like Wyckoff. I know, Prince, you kind of brought it to our attention. I don't know, a month ago, and I've been trying to really study it here as of late. And
it was funny because we don't, there's not a ton of people who really kind of focus on Wyckoff, and so I remember we were doing a live stream and I was kind of talking about it, and somebody was like, hey, where can I go learn more about this? And it's like, who should I follow? And it's like, it's a tough one because there's not many people I would say you should follow if you want to kind of learn a little more. But, anybody listening, Thistle is definitely somebody you want to follow if that is
sure.
your thing. There's going to be some good insights. All right, we had another question there under one of your tweets, and I like this one. How does your beard help you with crypto trading?
Yeah. Gives me something to rub when I'm stressed out. No, wait, that's not it. Something to fuck, I don't know.
When you're pondering something, you
Stroking
can just
it?
sit
Yeah,
and
just
stroke
stroking it, right, guys? Something to contemplate.
Just sitting-
Yeah.
No, I've actually had this thing for a long time. So I'm like, I'm getting close to 40, and I've had it since I was 16. So it's just part of me at this point.
Wow.
Probably wouldn't recognize yourself without it at this point.
Yeah, no, exactly. My wife has said flat out, like, you can't shave it off, because I'd probably just cry because I've never seen you any differently. I think, and I've heard and, seen things online where like people have kids and, the dad cuts off his beard and he's had a beard for 6 years and the kids just freak out. So, like, honestly, it just probably wouldn't go over well. If I need to get away, I guess I can vanish.
It's true. Built in disguise.
Hey, so question off topic. How often do you DJ?
Yeah. So I have so when I was younger, I just traveled and played a couple times a week. If it was during the summer and you're touring more, maybe 3 or 4. And then like 10 years ago, when I wanted to like start having kids and stuff, I stopped traveling. And I have a residency here where I play at least 2 times a week. And, in the summertime, because it's a pretty tourist town, might play Sunday nights, for industry night kind of thing. But my Friday night has been packed for like, 14 years. Like even to this day,
Wow.
It's like college night. And like I said, I'm almost 40, but it's still like 9.
Out in Kelowna,
Yeah, and
too,
it's like 900 people coming out on a Friday night.
It's just
Jeez.
gorgeous too. Like, I don't know if Dale, I don't know if you know what Kelowna looks like, but it's God's country. It's just gorgeous.
Like
Iowa?
when I drive to work, I go past. I counted once 9 vineyards, and then you come up over the hill and down, and the valley opens up. You go across a floating bridge, and then you're in downtown.
It's like a mini California almost.
I just did a quick Google on it, and it looks
it's
hot.
gorgeous. I usually try to go there at least once a summer.
And it's so hot in the summer. It's the only desert in the country, so everyone comes to party. So it's off the chain.
It's beautiful.
Thistle, can you beatbox?
Yeah. I mean, I could.
That's cool. I know. I mean, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I was just curious.
Dale's
One time,
start
I think it was Godson. We're like, hey, can you do
I
a
think
mic
it was Hustle.
Yeah, you're right. I think it was Hustle. And we're like, hey, can we do a mic check with you? And he just starts beatboxing like crazy.
Like crazy. Yeah,
So
I can't
cool.
mimic it at all, but it was good.
Yeah, it takes me a few beers and then I'll get on the mic. I'll MC after 3 beers.
There you go. So, general market, overview. Not anything specific to the current price action at this very moment, but market overview. Next 4 months, how do you see things?
Sure. So, I mean, I think the prevailing views right now are fairly opposing. The 2 main ones being that people think that we have done the early 2013 bubble and that this is, a shorter term, hard drop that will come back up and that we can make new highs again. The other being that we've completed the cycle and that we topped out like 2014. I believe generally where we roughly are in the market would be that in either of those cases, we're making that run down to the first major dip bottom. So on the 2013 bubble, that's the major dip before it goes up. And in the 2014 bubble, that would place us going towards the dip that brought us up into, I believe the dip was end of March, beginning of April, and then we kind of flattened out and then went up in the summer, which in both cases still leads us to a bounce, and it still leads to that triangle sort of formation that made in the summer of 14.
Yeah.
Or it reflects that ledge after we came out of the dip in the 2013 bubble. In the 2014 summer, in that ledge that we made, that was a really good time for altcoins. I wasn't around for 2013 during that ledge, but generally speaking, when Bitcoin goes sideways, altcoins do well. Or if Bitcoin has made an all-time high and is consolidating before a bear market starts, that is also where altcoins do well. So for newer traders, that's happening because after Bitcoin's made a high, the market makers, the whales, whatever you want to call them, have made a lot of money and they want to make some more money and they want to exit on you. So they're going to pump up altcoins when BTC is high so that they get maximum dollar. The other view is when BTC goes sideways, altcoins do good. And that's because there is a time of equilibrium within the market and there's less risk. So those big players that have lots of money that are making the market for you retail players, they want to have some confidence in the market too. So as long as the market is going sideways, they're willing to dip in their cash or their cold storage and pump altcoins for you. But if things are going mental in either direction, they don't want to take the risk. And that's why you're not getting play during then.
Mm-hmm. There we go. I love it.
Well, I think we've kind of.
I
know we've hit on a lot of touched on a lot of stuff.
There's been some heavy content here. And
I was just going to say that it's been awesome because it's nothing we've really talked about before.
It's very unique.
Thanks for having me. That was good to add some different perspective.
Great perspective. Yeah,
that's exactly and that's what I love about it because it's a
too.
totally
it's
unique
phenomenal.
perspective.
I was pretty pumped too, DJ, because we haven't had like Prince said, your trading style is different from everyone else's. So I like to get all the opinions and hear every style that's different. So it kind of helps formulate your own if you can find what works best for you, and then maybe
it's just like playing music. I mean, if you just play one style of music, it's not going to be very fun for you, for everyone else, whatever. You got to mix it all up and have a good time and learn from everybody and everything.
Yeah, for sure.
There we go. So if you had some parting words, some advice maybe for newer folks who, maybe they're kind of like, oh, why the hell did I even get in this market? Some parting words, some nice, some advice for some folks. What would they do?
Sure. That's kind of on the spot. I didn't prepare for that. So I think off the top of my head,
damn you, Prince.
The things that come to my mind is you need to learn how to remove as much emotion out of the game as possible. So try and think about how people use the term risk management, but I want you new traders to consider how you allocate your funds. The first way to look at it should be how much do you want to keep in cold storage? How much do you want to keep for BTC swing trading? How much do you want to keep for altcoins? How much do you want to keep for high risk investments? And then from there, you're going to take that allocation model that you've made for yourself and you want to turn it into a trading strategy. And within that, portion that's just for trading Bitcoin, learn some patience and learn how to average in and average out. I have said the average in and average out thing way too many times to count. And it's so important because if things are going up, we've already discussed that they're going to throw back. So you might get not as great an entry on your third or fourth lot, but that's okay. Because on the flip side, if the market goes against you, you're only one or two lots in. So you can cut that and rebuy the dip. I personally am not a big fan of adding to losers. I like if something doesn't meet, you as the new trader, once you are understanding market structure more and that Wyckoff stuff, you should be taking the gamble on the spring, or you're trying to enter in accumulation. So if that goes against you, that means that the market itself is turning and pivoting off of that level. So it's probably going to go against you a fair ways. Cut that loser and just buy it again. So average in, average out. You can always buy back a loser. You don't have to average down because that's just depleting your capital. Time is really important. We didn't talk about GAN stuff, and that's okay. But time in terms of your personal time is important and not wasting your time. So when you are understanding that Wyckoff model and you're buying the spring or you're buying the far right side of that accumulation channel, that far left side, like God knows what BTC price has done, but the altcoin has only gone sideways. So if you're buying it right at the left side of the accumulation channel or the far end of the right side, your price is the same, but your return on the way up is exactly the same. But during that time when you were holding this sack of shit while it was going sideways, Bitcoin could have throttled you, or you missed every other thing that went and yours went last. So yeah,
Potential opportunity
I think something that worked for me and a lot of other people is that if you only have a tiny bit of Bitcoin, don't go all into one thing. The thing that worked for a lot of people is just pick 10 things, pick 10 decent things, or pick 5 decent things, a couple gambles and 2 really big risks, and split that Bitcoin up and let it go. So, really average in, average out, focus on your risk management.
Love it.
Don't waste your time.
Thank you.
That's great advice. Yeah. And, great advice. And thank you for that. Especially, it's really deep that you've been in the space for so long. So it's great to get that for free, essentially, from someone like yourself. So again, thank you, DJ Thistle. Follow him on Twitter. It is, of course, I had it up, and now it's not refreshing.
At DJ Thistle, right?
Yeah, with a 01, because I think there's some other person. That might be his actual name, too. I don't know. Hey, come on.
Imposter.
So give him a follow. Thistle, thanks again so much for being on. It was great to get your perspective. We were all pretty pumped to hear what you had to say, and
really
I think everyone will enjoy it also. So thanks, everyone, for listening. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Tip your waitress. Peace out.